Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation, 6 ways to improve CX using AI in your contact center. So I want to begin with a statistic which I think is quite interesting, which is 55% of European business executives say that AI, artificial intelligence, however we define it, and that could be a big debate, is overhyped. So there's definitely a feeling amongst business executives in Spain, in Germany, in France, in the UK, in Belgium and the Netherlands that AI, has been the subject of too much media coverage and not enough sort of action really. So I'm here to talk today about how AI is being used in the contact center environment, how it's being used to improve customer experience, and how it is something that is actually very much real and something which is happening. And our approach to doing this was to do business research. So this is business research with 1,000 executives across Europe. So people approach these types of questions in very different ways. Sometimes people just go out and do expert interviews, sometimes people just sort of read articles, etc. But working for Odigo, we took a much more robust approach to sort of exploring the issues around AI and customer experience. Now, it's tracking research, so we first did this in 2021, and you'll see the results from 2022. Now, just a word on the people that we spoke to. So, they were large organizations, so 37% of them had more than 4,000 employees. I'm not sure where all of you sit in terms of that. 27% have between 500 and 999 employees. So they're all organizations which have the budgets to invest in AI. The other thing to mention is that we chose to speak to a range of functions. So rather than just talk to the IT directors or the data science executives, we spoke to people across the organizations because it's something which is very topical across the whole organization. So you can see leadership strategy, research and development 13%, operations, logistics and distribution 16%. So a range there of different types of functions. Now, one of the things that Odigo wanted to understand was really what were the sort of applications, because obviously when we think of AI in the contact center environment, we often think of conversational AI, of chatbots, whether they be text or voice-based. So there's that sort of perception of them being chat-driven. But in actual fact, we discovered there were around 11 or 12 different ways that AI was being used in contact center and customer experience organizations. So it's gone a long way from where it began, perhaps with chatbots in contact centers. So I guess the question, the pain point really for all of us working in this industry is, why do you need to improve the contact center? So one of the questions we asked was, where would you rate your own organization in terms of its performance, in terms of customer experience and contact center? Now, I'm not going to ask all of you. Just remember that psychologically we're predetermined pretty much, or we have a bias towards thinking that we're above average. So people are rating their own organizations, but only around 1 in 5 rate their organization contact center to be as good as it possibly could, which means 4 in 5 could improve their contact center operation. 79% want to offer better support to their customers, and that's gone up from 70% in 2021. So I was hearing before some earlier research that the CCMA had done, and they were talking about customer experience being the top driver for contact centers. I think it comes out here as well as being very, very important. Now, one of the things in contact centers, I've worked in the industry for long enough to know that the message that you get that, we're busier than usual is probably only true for perhaps FTX, something like that, where they've really got sort of unusual demand. But for most organizations, when you actually talk to the people who run contact center organizations, they have a pretty good idea of what volumes they'll be receiving day by day. Yes, there can be sort of exceptions, etc. But that message that consumers receive, they say, why is it that we always get that message? It's an old message. We can do better than that. And I think that's where artificial intelligence can really help organizations. So, one of the things that really stood out for us in this tracking research for Odigo was the shift in terms of interest in AI. So in the past, in 2021, it was the IT and the data science people who were most interested in using AI for customer experience. But a really interesting shift, I think, and I hope you agree, in the last year has been that customer experience, customer service executives are now the group that is most interested in deploying artificial intelligence. So far from it being hype, perhaps it's hype in the media sense, but in the day-to-day lives of people who run customer experience organizations, it's now the customer service executives who are most interested in using AI. And that's a very big jump from 33% to 40%. It's statistically significant. I guess you could also say across other functions, there's also been a growth in terms of interest in artificial intelligence. But I think that point about customer service, hoping that it will do something for their organization, is really, really sort of quite key. Now, in terms of the six lessons, the 6 ways that you can improve your customer experience using AI, the first one is really to understand how AI can improve your customer experience strategy. Now, when we started doing research like this, it was about 2018, 2017, sometime like that. Artificial intelligence was just being introduced into organizations, whether it was machine learning, whether it was computer vision, whether it was NLP, didn't really matter what it was, that's when it was starting. And the research that we did had the title, The Experimentalists, because there were lots of people who were just experimenting with using AI, and they hadn't really thought through what benefits they would get. And that sounds like a really obvious point to make, and it almost sounds patronizing to be saying it. But you do need to think quite carefully as to what you'll get out of the AI investment that you'll make. Now here you can see between 2021 and 2022, there's been an increase in terms of people thinking that they'll get benefits from investing in AI. Quite a significant increase again. The biggest jump is in terms of improving customer satisfaction from 46% to 52% and decreasing operational costs. It's interesting that it comes out more in terms of customer experience rather than improving operational costs. But the data on the right, I think, is also interesting in that the people who invest in artificial intelligence say that the outcomes of investing in AI were different from what they expected. So they put in place their investment, they made their decisions, they invested in the technology, which, to be honest, is something which lots of people have and can have access to. But the benefits that they got, the results that they got, were quite different from what they expected. So I think in terms of the first point, in terms of how you think about investing in AI, I think it's very much thinking about what your objectives are, what you're going to get out of it, what you hope to see, so that it doesn't become something that's hyped within the organization and people are disappointed. The second point is using AI to understand who your customers actually are. Now, this is something which, again, sounds like motherhood and an apple pie, but across the 1,000 organizations that we spoke to in Europe, 82% agree understanding customers in terms of age, vulnerability, agree that understanding customers' emotions and interactions is important. Those are sort of key drivers for investing in AI. Now, the great thing about machine learning and artificial intelligence is if you can get the data together, it will reveal for you insights into segments of customers or into customer behaviors or into customer emotions, which can really help your customer experience. But the key point here, I think, is that AI is very data dependent. This is a data science director from a health organization we spoke to. The more access to data, the better, but it needs to be in the right format. Most of the work can be in the data preparation. And I think in the past, we've underestimated how much effort needs to go into making sure that the silos don't exist, the data's in the right format, that you can actually apply it to the artificial intelligence. And when we ask people about the barriers to investing in artificial intelligence, so what had the business executives experienced as the problems, 80% identified the lack of clean data as a problem. And I remember going back to when I first started working with the Henley Centre for Forecasting, when we were just doing regression models for organisations. You would spend a huge amount of time getting data into the right format. It was often 80-90% of the work involved, and then you could do your analysis, then you could do your modelling. And I think it's really key to understand that point about getting the right data together and getting the cooperation of people within the organisation. So using AI to understand who your customers are. And then the third one is deploying AI to build easy and effortless interactions. So 89% said agreeing, recognizing, matching and routing customers' queries and questions to the correct person within the customer center operation is really sort of key. So that's the sort of things as to, why is someone calling? Why is someone having a chat? What sort of context is there to the interaction that they might be having? Is there a problem with their product that you can see? Have they called you recently? Is there something about that particular segment, that particular area of the country that would make them likely to want to be in contact with you at that time? And then secondly, the point about verifying and identifying customers contacting your organization. So, with all the fraud that is going on in the world at the moment, this is a really sort of key activity where artificial intelligence, again, can help organizations to weed out those sorts of problems. But critically, I think it's also very much a case of making it easier for organizations to deal with their customers, reducing customer effort. But in all of this, we have to think about the ethics of your AI. I mean, this is obviously an issue which people on the liberal side of the political spectrum often sort of talk about and focus about. Oxford University focuses on it. Lots of think tanks in the US think about it very much. We need to be very careful about biases which discriminate against particular customers, and we need to be sure that we have an audit trail for the way that our organizations are interacting if AI is playing a sort of a critical role in that. And the other point here is in terms of the time it takes to make AI work. Training the AI model is the thing which can take the most time for lots of organizations. So again, I was interviewing someone the other day and they were talking about the fact that their expectations, their hope for what they could do with AI had been very much tempered by the fact that they did need to go through that process of training. So that's the third one. The fourth one is, and that's something, the fourth one I think we're seeing quite a lot, and if you go to Odigo, they'll talk about this quite a lot. Implementing AI to support your contact center workforce. So the idea that there is a simple transaction which can be automated is a very central theme which has existed in this industry for many years. The sort of imagined view that 60% of interactions are easy and simple to deal with, and therefore you just have to leave the complex ones to the agents. The reality I've experienced from listening into lots of calls over many years, not as much as perhaps you have in your contact center operations, is that it's very rare that you get a really simple interaction. There's often a twist to an interaction which makes it more complex. So supporting your agents to provide the right level of service to your customers is really sort of key. Now, whether that's sort of prompts about, what it is the customer might be interested, whether it's matching the customer to the agent using, things like geodemographics or psychological factors, whether it's the sort of the profiles of the customers that you whether it's the type of query that customers have. So it's really sort of key to help your agents in terms of dealing with the complicated queries that they will be using AI sort of solutions. And I think one of the points that's quite critical here is that if you asked the business executives about what were the challenges of implementing artificial intelligence, one of the key ones they talked about was that the people it was being implemented on, the agents, for example, or the people working in customer experience, were fearful that they would lose their jobs. And I think the more AI goes on, the more AI is used, the more we're realizing that AI doesn't always replace jobs in the way that people hope that it will. And often it works by augmenting the work of the agent, improving the work of the agent, making it easier for them to do their jobs. And my anecdote for this is my mother was operated on by the Davies robotic surgeon at Royal Surrey Hospital, and amazingly this robotic surgery tool had 4 surgeons operating it. And you would have thought, well, in the past, was there just 1 or 2 surgeons operating on her? But there were 4 surgeons operating this AI-enabled robotic tool. So sometimes the sort of simple idea that we'll get rid of staff or whatever just doesn't turn out to be the case. So I think consulting with your workforce, making sure that they understand that it's not there necessarily to replace their work, is quite key. So bots. Now, chatbots, messaging, live chat, asynchronous, synchronous, whether it's text, whether it's voice-based, etc. One of the terrible things I think which happened with bots was that they were incredibly easy to implement badly. And so lots of organizations, just downloaded something off the internet and implemented a bot. And often they didn't consult with the rest of their organization. And I think it was very tied up with our idea of fast failure. So we should just try it, see if it works. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, don't worry. The problem with that approach, I think, is that you're playing with your customers, really. And lots of customers have had a bad experience of chatbots already. And it's not the same as IVR was in the 2000s or 2010s, where there were IVR forests instead of IVR trees. But there is a danger that we kill chatbots by not implementing them properly. So one point I'd like to make is there are lots of places that you can put bots in now, or that you can implement them, whether it's on your website, your email, your phone, your apps, your smart speakers. That omni-channel world that has been around for 12 years is only getting more complicated. So there's more places that you can deploy your apps, and across most of those channels you can see there's slightly increased tendency to want to implement a bot. But one of the key problems here is that 70% say there's a shortage of in-house skills and resources to actually implement bots. So what we've learned from this is that if you want to implement a bot successfully, you need to work with a partner who really understands how to do a bot successfully, and then you need to really train the bot. You need to work with your customers. You need to identify how it is that they can help. You need to limit what they do so that it is a successful implementation and not something which just creates a bad customer experience for your customers. So offering customer service bots across different channels is number 5. And then the last one, number 6, is keeping pace with customers using AI insights and proactive actions. So proactive customer service or smart service has been around again for many years. People have talked about the tipping point in terms of we'll move to a world where technologies like GPT-3 or really clever virtual assistants will anticipate what it is that the customer needs, anticipate what's gone wrong, and be able to act for them. So, in terms of the switching marketplace, switching your utility provider, if you wanted to do that, which I guess none of us do at the moment, or switching your bank account, or switching your mobile phone provider, that can be an automated process with a virtual assistant. But that is still some way off. But what we do see is that using AI technologies to help achieve a shift in terms of proactive actions is something that different countries are thinking about to lesser or greater extent. The Spanish tend to be out ahead, the UK is just behind, and Belgium and the Netherlands are further behind. So there's lots of potential there for trying to anticipate what it is that customers want and really help to support them over time. So in terms of last words, I think the key thing that came out of this research that we've done with Odigo is that firstly, AI is not, it may well be hyped, there's no question about that, but it is not hype. It is a real thing which is very much around us all the time, whether it's with being used by Uber, whether it's in robotic surgeons, as I've described, whether it's in Google search, whether it's Amazon, whatever it is, it's already out there, it's being used extensively already. It is something that's worth investing in. Something like 9 in 10 organizations that we interviewed said that they were investing in AI, obviously in very different ways, but they're all doing it. But 57% said AI needs nurturing to get the best results. So it isn't something that you can just sort of set up straight away and it works effectively. It's something you need to invest a real amount of time in. 84% said it needs time to prove, needing time to prove AI works is a key barrier. 78% proving the ROI on it. And 66% said they'd failed to measure pre and post AI metrics effectively. So they hadn't even put in place the right sort of framework for thinking about how AI would affect their organization in the long term. And I think that's because we had this view of let's experiment with the technology, let's just sort of try out the technology, see if it works. And I think we're well past that now. We need to put in place those frameworks. We don't need to fail fast as such. We need to sort of plan it properly and do it in the right way. For all of that, 9 in 10 said that their AI investment had been successful. So it was something which they'd seen some benefits from. So that's definitely something to encourage people. And 42% said it's business critical and vital to the success of their business. So not just hype, it is real. There is lots of potential to make it work within your organization. Perhaps it can help solve some of the problems that we have in contact centers today, some of the problems that have been around for a very long time. If you want more information about the research, so there are 3 ebooks about artificial intelligence which Odigo is publishing. So, looking at things like NLP, looking at the state of the market and looking at the ways to improve your organization using NLP. You can go over to their stand and they can tell you more, or you can sort of just click on links and you'll be able to access those e-books to see, the people, I guess, how other people in the industry are using artificial intelligence. So thank you for your time. If there's any sort of questions or queries, please let me know, or speak to me afterwards. So thank you very much.